Good afternoon, everyone.
Good day. I am Lavon Wise, fundraising coordinator for the Women's Coalition of St. Croix, and this is my co-host, Shalene Gums, crisis counselor. We welcome you to Let's Talk, a special edition of the Women's Coalition of St. Croix's Women's Film Festival. Today was supposed to be the epic event of the Women's Coalition of St. Croix presents Luna Fest Women's Film Festival. Due to the COVID-19 coronavirus global pandemic, we had to postpone the main event until October 24th of this year. It is our major fundraiser for 2020. But we wanted to save the date as much as we could, so today we presented to you the documentary by award-winning filmmaker and U.S. Virgin Islands' very own Johanna Bermudez Ruiz, named Forgotten in Paradise. It is a film about the state of mental health in the U.S. Virgin Islands. In a few moments, we will speak with Johanna Bermudez Ruiz. Shalene and I will be here to answer questions and address some of the challenges we currently face. We will close today's program with remarks from our executive director, Pluma S. Lewis. So please stay with us and send in your questions in the chat, and we will try to answer as many of them as possible. And I want to thank our sponsors for staying with us during these turbulent times. Thank you, VI Lottery, Temple Works, Moda Cuisine, Cafe Christine, Ula Newberger, Trends Boutique, Plaza Extra West, Leslie Stillwagon, Team Consultants, Attorney Lee Rohn, Ed and Stephanie Fletcher, Mutiny Island Vodka, the Buccaneer Hotel, JKC Communications, Tamron Reef Resort, Abby's Lingerie Salon, Crystal and Susan Atkins, Attorney Diane Russell, Attorney Trudy Fenster, Cindy and Murray Gerber, Sandcastle on the Beach, U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism, Caribbean Cinemas St. Croix, America Infrastructure Development, and Caribbean Museum Center for the Arts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Johanna Bermudez Ruiz. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your wonderful documentary with us.
Thank you all also for joining us again. We appreciate you being here. This is Shalene Gums, crisis counselor, co-hosting with Yvonne on Let's Talk. We want to really thank you. This was a really major event for us. We were so looking forward to having LunaFest. And we are so glad that we are able to have you join with us as we speak with Johanna about this very, very important topic, Forgotten in Paradise, the state of mental illness in the United States Virgin Islands. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
You.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I'm multitasking because I'm seeing that people on Facebook are there are basically a lot of shares going on, and I'm trying to get folks to come into your YouTube page so that they can see the interview.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. So, Johanna, I was there when you premiered this film in 2014, 2015 at Botanical Gardens. And I felt under the circumstances that we're all in right now, it was really important to share this film and premiere our film festival with this film because mental health hasn't gotten any better in the U.S. Virgin Islands since you premiered this film.
Yeah, when I made this film, when I was being interviewed this week, my passion with this film started off when I was in high school. Back then, I was at Manor School, and it was mandatory that we write a paper, senior project, and my interest was mental health. And as I was researching the story of mental health in the U.S. Virgin Islands, I came across St. Elizabeth Hospital, which everyone saw now on film. And as Dr. Hendricks described, it was just a fast forward in 2013 when we started this project for me to personally go to St. Elizabeth Hospital, something I had written about when I was 16, and then as a full adult going there and seeing the actual frames of half brains on the walls, it really touched me because I wondered which one of those brains was from the Virgin Islands. As Dr. Hendricks describes, that Virgin Islanders, we were possibly experimented on. So for me, this was obviously a labor of love, and a film that I think that we all, not just in the Virgin Islands, but in the US, should be seeing, because it's just a little mark, a little grain on our history and how we as people from here have been studied on from the 40s, maybe the 30s. So I'm really honored to you guys, you Women's Coalition, Lavon, Clemma, Shalene, Debbie, Carolyn, all your hard work, because this for me was extremely exciting. We're all going through something through COVID-19, and I know
Yes.
we're all praying for this to go away very soon.
Yes, I see there's going to be some mental health outcomes just from the social isolation and not being able to do what we normally do, and then not having the capacity to take care of our citizens, you know, so I thought this was really important.
I think it's very important too. Also, some of the things that were mentioned in the film in terms of the family members not getting services, not being,
Yeah.
we still not having a psychiatric ward. I know that in the film, you also talked about the fact that we only have one psychiatrist. Well, we still only have one psychiatrist. We do have a psychologist now as well, but we still only have one psychologist. A lot of the things that were really at the forefront back in 2014 when you did this are still very true today. I mean, they talked about a 5-year plan with you when you were there. I saw that you put that up. That was supposed to have happened last year, but we haven't seen a lot of the things that that were talked about in that 5-year plan. And so it's very important for us because, like Lavon was saying, we are in a place where mental health and mental wellness right now is going to be very, very important. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Johanna, especially as the director of this film, and putting it all together, is how did you feel going through the community and talking to people about the seriousness? And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why you did it. How do you think that the community is looking at it? From your perspective as a filmmaker, what did you want the community to see?
Well, first you've asked like 2 or 3 questions in one.
Yes, I did.
So let me tackle the first one. Is the first one about how did I see the community going in? One of the things I love about my job when I'm making documentaries is the ability and the open arms that I receive from our community, whether it's St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John. I've been filming since I've been here. I filmed stuff on the recovery. And the same way I was treated in 2013 when I was filming and going into people's homes, it's always a welcome. It's also a surprise sometimes because I might go, if you flash 2 years ago, I was filming around the hurricane and recovery, and people remembered me. And so I go into anywhere. I will go anywhere as long as it's a road and I can drive it. I will go there with my team, and we are trained to do that. So going into people's homes through Forgotten Paradise, some people we film right open air, and some people's homes we filmed at their homes, and everyone just was welcoming. The folks that were under have the condition of mental illness were very warm-hearted. As you could see from Julia and Julio, they were just beautiful and allowed me to film them in their yard, taking the roses and the flowers, and just very patient. And so for me, I get goosebumps because I go in there with a lot of love and a lot of open heart because I want to hear their stories. It's usually a 2-hour interview from the time that we start. And so, and I try to keep it at 45 minutes. That's always my general rule. But sometimes, like with Julia and Julio, where we're filming them in their yard and how they're still so, so much love there, so much respect. And so for me, I'm just happy that everyone's gracious towards me, and that people want to tell their stories. You know, at the time when I was making this film, because I come from such a strong background with documentary filmmaking and the films are shown internationally, there's a caliber standard of work that I produce, and that I think that anyone in the Virgin Islands, anyone of any background of education can enjoy the movie, can get something out of it.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I mean, we see, you know, some of those people are not with us anymore, but some of them are, and they're still on the streets, still suffering, you know. And to see the mothers, that was a very powerful segment under the tree, you know, suffering with their children and getting services for their children or being denied services for their children. It was very, very powerful.
For me, when I decided to include the story of the women, because we as women sometimes have the heaviest burden to be caretakers. One of the things I learned a lot through this film was respite care and taking those breaks, and the need for the person that's taking care of the other person to take that break for their mental health. When I filmed all those women, I was like, my first initial was like, how am I going to get everybody on camera? And and again, very patient. We shot that in one day, maybe in 2 hours. I think it was very, very, very crucial that each woman held their photo, and I asked them to please bring a photo of their child so that we can understand that we're all human beings, that
That's right.
we all have the right for health care and mental health, that this should not be an issue of the who's got it and who's not in this donut situation. We are all human. And that's what I wanted to convey when I showed and the women that are caretaking their children, and they're talking about their children. When you hear someone say, this is my only daughter, and what do I do? We live on a small, tiny island. We're hardly recognized nationally. So for me, that was such a pivotal point. Pivotal points in that film was to have the prison system allow me to go in and film the situation so that we can, and actually those interviews were done in the prison. So that we can hear their voices. Most people are not aware of that many of our men and women are in California with mental health issues. That's what I learned from this film, that our people are part of this jail corporation and that we're not recognized, we're not counted on within the system. I wanted to go back to my goal of making this film. My goal ultimately to making this film is that if everyone would see it and everyone again would learn about all of these subtle points that was featured in the film and direct points, the psychiatric system, that maybe there's a place to go, but not a place for many to go to when we need healthcare for mental health. And I think for me, because I grew up here, was learning about community health in the 80s, because I was a part of it. My mom took me to the trailer that was at my great uncle's Candido Guadalupe's project, Candido Guadalupe's housing. Behind there was a trailer that was for healthcare, that had nurses and doctors, and I was a little girl going in there, and that to me was very, very, very close to my heart, because we don't have that today. And thankfully we have the Frederickson Health Clinic, but we don't have that access where the average person that lives in a community can just simply either walk or drive 2 minutes or 5 minutes to get services.
Yes. And we know that has been the community public health that we had before is not what we have now, nor do we have a lot of the services. But we really want to say that the film was tremendous, and we thank you so much for taking the time to put it out there. and for doing it. And it's still relevant. It's so relevant still. I don't even know how to explain to you how much it could have been done yesterday, because everything's the same, apart from the fact that we now have a psychologist, but everything is still the same. And so thank you. I thank you for your vision. Um, Thank you so much for, taking the time to put it out there, and for all the people that you met. Mental health illness is a problem that's a community problem. And we don't want it to continue to just be a problem. We want it to be everybody's problem. And that's one of the things that I think that your film made very, very real. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Here's the thing, when I make movies like this, what my hope and my wish is that once I make a film like this, it just becomes pure history, that it's no longer relevant, that because the problems are solved, that people are getting public health, community public health, that people are getting mental health, and that it's affordable. And so I am honored for you all to kick off your film festival with Forgotten Paradise. And I think it's exciting. And I am just praying and hoping that all of us, we can make it through healthy and alive through the COVID. I want to say thank you to all the nurses, the doctors, you all, Women's Coalition, because as we know, this is the toughest time because we're all spending so much time with our beloveds and we love them. But it takes a lot of patience and compassion and strength. And so you guys are on the forefront, Women's Coalition, in providing services of sexual assault. It's one of my concerns. When the hurricane came, it was one of my concerns, how young women, young children are being treated. I am a big advocate with domestic violence, sexual assault. As I said, I've been working on a film that touches on these issues through popular culture. But I am honored because you guys are on the forefront. Doctors are on the forefront. Grocery store workers are on the forefront. Gasoline providers are on the forefront right now. And I hope we can do this again. And I just say thank you. And for some reason, I want to say I love you all. Thank you.
I love you too.
I love you too. Johanna Bermudez Ruiz, the documentary was Forgotten in Paradise. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you, guys. We just so appreciate the fact that Joanna was on and with us. It's not every time we get to feature a film that we have the actual filmmaker director with us. And so we feel very honored and blessed to have had her on as we prepare for what would have been today our Luna Fest. Right, Levon? But we're looking forward to having our Luna Fest later in the year. It was such a great project. We are hoping that you will join us for it later on down. And a lot of the things Johanna was talking about also, including this being Sexual Assault Awareness Month and being Child Abuse Prevention Month, hence the blue and the teal. That's why we have these colors. That's why we're doing this work. That's why we do these causes, because we know that this is a difficult time. It's a very, very difficult time because we may love our family, but we may not like them very much because we're not accustomed to being around them.
Because people don't really get that piece, and all the work that I've done with DV and sexual assault. When you educated me about that timepiece, say that again, because people don't really get that. I saw a meme earlier today that people aren't saying, "Oh, he's my everything," like right now. So
they're not. They're not. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we don't realize that we really only spend on average per day about 3 to 4 hours with the people in our family, where they're at school, we're at work. Very few times do we spend more than that. And on the weekend, we find other things to do. So we don't get a lot of time that we spend together. And because we don't spend a lot of time together, when we are put in a situation where we have no choice, the stay-at-home order, kind of like when we go through the hurricanes and disasters, you're stuck. And so our numbers for domestic violence, sexual assault, murder, frustration, aggravations You know, there's a lot of things that you could bypass when you only have 3 to 4 hours to
Right.
bring it up that you don't have the option to right now because you can't get rid of them. And so I want to bring on our executive director, Clemma Lewis. Clemma. And so that we could talk a little bit about what we're seeing actually in the office as well as in the community. Clemma.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not time-wise, I'm not sure, but good afternoon, everyone. And thank you all so much for watching this and participating. And hopefully you sending in your questions, because we all need to understand that we all a step away from some type of mental health issues. And with COVID-19 going on and everything going on right now, we're not immune for being the next person that needs some kind of assistance. So it's really, really, really important that we all stay tuned and pay attention. I want to bring close to home the connection with mental health and the work we do, because some of the questions is, I'm a little surprised that the Women's Coalition has taken on this topic versus focusing on domestic violence and sexual assault. So let's be clear, a lot of victims suffer from mental health issues because of the abuse, because of the trauma, and because of all that they have to endure on a regular basis. So mental health services is important to everyone in the community.
It is. It is very much.
So on that note,
So
Clemma,
we just,
I was making a comment. Senator De Gazan sent in a statement saying that her nephew was mentally ill and diagnosed with schizophrenia, and they had to move him to the States to get care. It's a sad situation in the territory, and DOH, Department of Health, had been appropriated money, but and you know, there's been letters and all the rest of it, but we're waiting for a better system. And so we're glad, Senator De Gazan, that you joined us. And yes, it is definitely a problem. That's one of the reasons why we're bringing it to the forefront. And like Clemma just said, a lot of people don't realize the connection. And I kind of want you to go over that again, Clemma, because they don't realize how trauma from domestic violence kind of impacts other things and it can lead to other stuff. So can you talk a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to understand, like, for instance, the social distance and the stay at home order that's in place. When you are surrounded by someone that's abusing you on a regular basis, you don't have a voice, you being beat up, you don't have any say. So if that doesn't affect your mental, I don't know what would. And so it's critical for us to understand, even when we work with victims, it's critical when we're trying to get a psychiatrist that can help us get an evaluation. Sometime when we have to work with families to get a 722 because we don't have any other option, because we tried everything. Mental health, your mental health is so important in how you go through life, how you deal with your families, and how you function. And there's no way our work could not be interconnected without doing both. So it's important that if you are a victim and you're suffering, it's really, really critical that you reach out for help. And you know, Shalene, we gotta be clear, it's still a stigma. And I also want to say a lot of abusers use mental health to take children away from
Yes.
victim and use it as an excuse. We've had numerous cases where abusers took out 722 just so they can use it to take the children from the mothers. And so let's be clear, we're not saying all victims of domestic violence and sexual assault have mental health issues. However, we're saying that it can lead to some when you have been traumatized your entire life. And I think
It
that's
can.
critical.
It is very critical. It's very, very much a critical part of what we do. Not only that, in terms of, I mean, talking about the cycle of violence and the different stages of violence, one of the ones that I know that, you know, we know as counselors that one of the things that we really battled with, and anybody that works in the agency, so even to our other staff like Levon would be very aware of it, psychological abuse is one of the worst abuses that there is, psychological and mental abuse, because they make the victim think, okay, I'm crazy. You know, they move the keys, they put stuff different places, just to try to make them feel that they're crazy so that they can continue to have the power and control. And so that's one of the ways that it ties in, and ties in really, really well.
Yeah. I wanna,
I'm
we
glad.
just got a comment from Denise Bennerson thanking us for the conversation about the past and the current state of affairs of mental illness, and thanking the Women's Coalition for the work that we do in the community to stay blessed. Thank you, Denise. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you. And also in the chat, we have, oh, Johanna's thanking us for featuring her film, Forgotten in Paradise. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you again.
So Clemma, can you expound on psychological and mental abuse so that we can, and the impact of verbal abuse on those two abuses as well?
Yeah, that's a good point, because people don't understand that sometimes verbal. I've heard women say, I wish that I could just get hit, because by the time they called you names, told you how you look, the size of your body, the color of your skin, you don't have anything left. You feel like you're not worthy, nobody gonna pay attention to you. And the sad part is sometimes you reflect and you extend that same behavior to your children. And that's where the child abuse piece come up, because sometimes when we so abused and so put down, we don't realize the impact our behavior has on our children, and we don't realize that domestic violence and sexual assault is intergeneration. It's passed down from one generation to the next generation. And if you don't do something to help yourself and get help, then you will continue the cycle of violence in your relationship, and your children would follow the same pursuit. So it's really important to be aware of those signs. Most people think domestic violence is just physical, Shalene. So I'm really glad that you brought up the name calling, the putting down, making people think they're crazy, isolating them, which is what's going on now, from family members and people in the community that can help them, using religion and other devices to keep them victims. So we have a list of information on our website that can educate you about the piece. But I also want to add the sexual assault piece, because this is domestic violence. No means no. And even, I mean, this is Sexual Assault Awareness
Month. Yeah.
And even if you're married or in a committed relationship, no means no. If you do not give consent and you're forced, it's against the law. And we need to be clear about that as well.
Yes.
We have a comment in, go ahead, Shalene, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was gonna say too, that one of the other things that Clemma mentioned about it being intergenerational and our taking it out on our children is that this is Child Abuse Prevention Month as well. And so because we're all locked together in a small space, your children are going to get on your very last nerve, because they're usually in school. So please take as many precautions as you can. Take your time out, find separate things for people to do, move the children into different areas. I do know that we talk a lot about social distancing and spacing. I am well aware of the fact that some people, they have 8 people living in one house and they do not have the space. We are just trying to say, though, find creative ways for you to be able to do things and interact with your children, because we don't want the numbers to continue to go up. They're going up. We're getting more DV calls. We're getting more child abuse calls. We're getting more child sexual assault cases. It always happens when people are put in a position where they feel like they're in prison, because it feels like you're in prison. And so we just want to make it very, very clear that it is also Child Abuse Prevention Month. As well as sexual assault awareness, it's child abuse prevention. So let's be very aware of our behaviors and our actions.
Yes, we have some
and I want to add that's really critical. Okay.
Go ahead, Clemma.
Okay, you say, I just stopped because you said you had comments. You want to add?
Yes, well, so we have some comments. I'm not sure how to pronounce this person, but what they said was informative and timely documentary. May the Virgin Islands prioritize comprehensive and holistic mental health facilities, services, education, awareness, and support with sustainable funding as soon as possible. And Denise Bennerson is reaching out to you personally, Clemma. She's saying, hi, Clemma. Thanks for all that you and the Women's Coalition do for the community. I have known several people, mostly women, that have used your services to save them from psychological or physical abuse.
Okay, so that's good. Let me add, hey Denise, let me add that our services, so we'll be, the community will be clear, we provide services to women, men, and children. As long as you're a victim, we will provide services to you. The Women's Coalition will be giving out books and activities next week to the housing community for Child Abuse Prevention Month. We thought parents that might give you a little break. We're going to be dropping off free books with activities that your kids could do to keep them busy. And just remember, we are 24/7. At the end of this filming and the end of our conversation, we have a whole list of resources that you will be able to read and write down and take the information. But before we end, I don't want to be remiss without doing, as the executive director, I have to say that I have to thank my crew that put all the work in here, from Levon to Shalene. You don't see Carolyn and Debbie, but they've been the backbone of this event that works for the Women's Coalition. We are 24/7. The staff is on call around the clock. And while most people at home, our staff is still working around the clock. If you can't reach us through phones, because somebody brought that to my attention, we keep saying calling. If you check our resources, we got Facebook, chat, Instagram. You got to be able to take advantage of one of those tools. But I want to leave the community with the most important thing. We are our sisters and brothers keepers. It is important, if you see something, hear something, know something, call 911, call our agency. All it does, it helps to make a better community. We have a very vulnerable population, and we have to do this together. COVID-19 has hit us and knocked us down, but we're going to get back up. But we're going to have to get back up strong and as a team. We need each other. Social distance is fine, and you can still help people by picking up the phone and checking on them without using that as an excuse not to help. So from us to the Women's Coalition, thank you so much. Remember, we are our sisters and brothers keepers. Thank you all.
Thank you, Clemma. So we're going to have the Women's Coalition Presents Luna Fest Film Festival in October. So stay tuned. We do have film submissions that we will be announcing whose films will be premiered. But if you want to sponsor, give me a call or call the Women's Coalition at 340-773-9272. Reach out at events@wcstx.org. If you or someone you know is in crisis or needs assistance, don't hesitate to go to our website, wcstx.org, or call at, thank you, or call at 340-773-9272. Someone always answers the phone 24/7, 365 days a year. And like I said, again, we are still looking for sponsors for our main event. It's going to be fabulous. And everybody be kind to each other.
Yes, please be kind. Be very, very, very kind to each other. Thank you so much. We're out of time, and so we're going to wrap up now. But we wanted to just say thank you so much for joining us. All our resources, the resources nationally and locally, are up there. Like Clemma and Levon said, we are still open, 773-9272. We are complying though, so we're limiting our interaction at the office. If you give us a call, then we'll make arrangements that way. But be kind to each other. If you see something, say something, do something. We all are a village, but we need a healthy village. We need a healthy village. Do not be your brother or sister's keeper, and please look out for the little people. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna see if Clemma wants to say her final and Levon want to say her final, and then we're gonna say thank you and be safe. Keep clean, please. keep clean, keep the spread down.
I think you said it in a nutshell, and I said it as well. If you need help, reach out for help. We are our sisters and brothers keepers. Be kind, let's be nice, let's help each other. The Women's Coalition is here for you 24/7. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your comments and your questions. And if anybody needs help, don't hesitate to contact the Women's Coalition of St. Croix or call the police at 911. Thank you for your time and your interest. And here are the resources again, 340-773-9272, or go to our website, wcstx.org. Email us at info@wcstx.org. And stay tuned for more of our activities. Like Clemma said, we have some resources going out for the little people coming up this week. And stay tuned for the Women's Coalition of St. Croix presents Luna Fest Film Festival in October.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everybody. Good afternoon.